Looking for clarity and confidence when it comes to decision making for your business? You've come to the right place. You're now listening to the Atomic Business Coaching Podcast.
Welcome back. Today, we're going to talk about standard operating procedures. So let's go right into what a standard operating procedure is. So Tom, in your opinion, what is one?
Directions.
I love it. I mean, as simple as you could possibly be, it's an instruction manual. So what we're going to talk about today are 6 different areas. So here's a little bit of an intro about it. Next, we'll talk about who and what your SOP is really for. Then we'll go into, do you delegate it or do you implement it? Then we're going to have a little bit of fun with you, and we're going to actually live walk through and write an SOP, but for something quite funny. You wouldn't really think this is what you'd write an SOP for. Then we'll get a little bit more serious. In the section after that, we'll talk about an SOP for a very specific area of business. This is going to be more about follow-up because it's kind of ubiquitous across every business. And then finally, we'll end up with talking to you about the next steps and how you use and iterate this. All right, so we'll see you in the next section. All right, Tom, so we're going to talk about who and what an SOP is for, okay?
Absolutely.
All right, so you handle the majority of the operations for Atomic Business Coaching. So what is an SOP really for? I know in the intro you said it's kind of like, I said instruction manual. What did you say?
Instructions. Or directions.
Directions is what
right? Directions to put something together, right? So we always think we talk about, different manuals, and you're creating the processes, you're creating the steps necessary to carry out the multiple processes that you have within your organization, from onboarding a new client or onboarding a staff member to even before that, posting for the position to hire that person. When you're going to do your budgeting, there are simple steps that you can follow to create the budget. You could basically make a standard operating procedure for everything inside of your business, because the key is that you want to be able to give it to someone to carry out, or you want to have for you to carry out, so that it's always a consistent thing that takes place, right? That's what an SOP should do, is establish consistency in the way things are done in your business.
Correct. And the what it's really for is that exact point. It's about the consistency. When you're building a business, you will soon find out, if you haven't already, that there are many, many different hats you have to wear. And there's only so much information we can store inside of our brains. And what tends to happen is things slip through the cracks. So when that happens, you need to have a place that you can go back and, like Tom said, have these directions that you can look at and say, what was I supposed to do next? Oh, yeah, I'm on step 3. I got to go to step 4 and I have to do this piece of it. But the consistency is what's really important. If you go to any McDonald's in the world, okay, the burgers basically taste the same. They may put a little bit different condiments. Like we're in New York. If you go to Connecticut, they put mustard on it. Disgusting. If you like mustard on your burger, please stop watching this. I will not be your friend. But the burger and the assembly of it and the temperature it's cooked at and the equipment that they use is standard operating procedure for McDonald's. What you are doing is doing that for your own business. And you may be a solopreneur. You may not even have a business yet. You may just be a side hustler trying to create your business. Well, what you have to do is create the steps of anything that you've gone about doing. And we will, in a future module here, teach you exactly how to do this. But that's all it is. We have so many things we have to do that we have to go back to them and look at them. Now, who is it for? In the beginning, it's going to be for you. Okay. But as Tom said, we want to be able to hand this off and delegate it. And when we give this to an employee, we want them to carry it out the way that we have set it up. But if we have 2 employees doing the same role, we want them both to carry it out the same way. So this becomes more of an employee handbook for a very specific task. And I mean, Tom and I have one of our clients that we have an SOP for opening up their store. It sounds silly, but it literally says, put the key in the lock, open, go to the alarm, punch in the code, turn on the lights for this area of the business, turn on the lights for that, turn on these 2 computers, check the voicemails. That is their opening procedure. And it's like, well, don't we know how to do this? Like, why would we do this? What is it for? It's for when someone forgets, like, oh, what am I supposed to do next? You go back to that. And more importantly, it helps you as the owner onboard people more seamlessly. And that's what it's about. Hopefully, if you're building a business, you're going to want to grow it. And if you're going to grow it, you're going to need more people. And if you have more people, that's either going to take your time to train them or using this SOP. So in the next section, we're going to talk about, should you delegate it or implement it? All right. In this section, we're talking about once your SOP is created, and we will, in the next module, tell you how to create one. But once it is created, do you just instantly delegate it or do you implement it? And this is where most people get hung up. They think, well, I'm writing an SOP so that I can give a job to somebody and they can go out there and do that. And then they typically wait, and they wait until they need someone to work, and then they have to scramble to write that SOP. And that is not what we want you to do. Right. We want you to act as if you're going to implement this yourself, whether you already know you're going to hire someone to do it. Even if someone else is already doing it, when you write the SOP, we want you to write it as if you are going to implement it. We have a protocol that we use called Believe, Behave, Become. And it works when you're writing your SOP. You have to believe, I'm the person who's going to do this SOP. And then when you're writing it, as we'll show you in a future module, this is how you have to behave when you're doing it. If you put yourself in the shoes of your staff, or if you're going to go do this task tomorrow, you will write down those directions, as Tom calls it, very, very differently than if you're theorizing on one day, I'm going to hire somebody from some place to do something. Okay, these have to be very practical. Would you agree, Tom?
Yes, they have to be very practical, because if you don't have them be practical, you wind up with something that's useless and doesn't merit anything, and it causes breakdown in your organization and your business when you have these things and you're not using them the way they should be used. And so it really is important that you use them and you make them so that they're easy enough to use and easy in being able to be consistently used.
Correct. And as we always say, business and life are simple, they're just not easy. And it works just for this SOP. SOPs are simple. Executing them are just not easy. So the simpler you make it when you write it down, okay, the less hard, the less hard they're going to be to actually implement. So one of the things that Tom and I do is we have young children, and we say, all right, when we're writing this, can our children implement these directions? Right? If they can't, then how can somebody else? And how can you remember when now you have 55 things to do today and you have to look back at an SOP like, what did I mean by saying this? So, you're not going to use acronyms. You're going to write things out. You're going to act as if this person has never done it before, and you're going to act as if you are doing this for the first time. Okay, so in the next section, we're going to do a little funny way of writing an SOP. All right, so this is probably why you're here, is figuring out, how do I actually do this, right? You're probably a little pumped up and like, I just want to do it. I just want to get to doing it. So we have to take you to a place that you've been before, all right? And this is the way that we can learn something. If we familiarize yourself with not just a new way of doing something, but doing something that's new for something that you have always done. So hopefully you've done this today. Hopefully at least you've done this week. You have all taken a shower, haven't you? Have you taken a shower, Tom?
I did. I took a shower today. Yes, I did.
Nice. I mean, sometimes it's questionable. That's why we're remote when we do these lessons. I don't have to smell them. Tom works out hard, so I don't want to be next to him after the gym.
That's right. You don't. Yes, but you would never know.
All right. So I know this is silly, right? We're going to write an SOP for a shower. I know how to take a shower, but this is an exercise so you can understand how both simple and difficult it is to write an SOP. Mm-hmm. All right. So, Tom, we're going to go through this live. Our editors, hopefully they'll be putting up some of the steps along here with us. So let's start with taking a shower, Tom. So what's step number 1?
Walk into the bathroom.
Okay. So you see how simple that is? Walk into the bathroom. Okay. All right. So step number 2 is get in the shower, right, Tom?
No, turn on the water.
Oh, turn on the water. Well, but can I step in the shower and then turn on the water?
Yeah, you can. But in my SOP, I turn the water on first to make sure it's the temperature I want first.
Okay, this is a great example of just because someone else has written an SOP doesn't mean you have to write it this way. Your business is your business, and you get to dictate exactly how you've done this. So if Tom and I were separate right now, we would end up both taking a shower and hopefully getting clean. but we would go about it in a different way. And this is why I'm asking you to act as if you were going to do this. The reason why is if I told someone to do it Tom's way and I had to train them on how to do it, I wouldn't really be able to put myself in that place. I wouldn't have the empathy that it needs to be able to understand why they're struggling with something, because I wouldn't have struggled with that point. I also wouldn't be able to explain why it's step 2, then 3, when they're saying, well, shouldn't it be step 3, then 2? Okay, just like Tom and I did. So here's a key piece of this, right? So now imagine, and we'll go further on this, but now imagine if we implemented that SOP, okay? And we'll do it Tom's way. So we walked into the shower, we turned the hot water on, and now we got in the shower. Well, guess what? Guess what would happen, Tom, if I went and did that? Step by step without doing anything else.
Step by step, you still wouldn't be clean.
Okay, wouldn't be clean, but even worse than that, my clothes would be all wet.
Oh, yeah, because I didn't say take off your clothes.
There we go. So this is a key point, is you want to look at each and every little detail.
Right.
Because if you told somebody else, like, okay, what you're going to do is go in the bathroom, you're going to turn on the hot water, and you're going to get in the shower. Like, okay, I'm in the shower. When do I take my clothes off? Now,
right.
It sounds silly. Who would really do that? But you got to remember, people are stupid, okay? And sometimes I'm very stupid too. And I take things very, very literally when I'm following instructions. Okay, this is why most of the time I don't follow instructions. I just do it my own way. And then I create my own SOP on how I would like to do that. Now, my wife wouldn't like that very much when I'm putting together furniture. But when I'm building businesses, I know what I'm doing. When you're building businesses, you know how you do it. When you take a shower, you know how you take a shower. So let's take a step back. Now we're going back and writing on our SOP. And what you are doing is you are physically writing this out. Okay, you are writing out on a piece of paper or in a document, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, whatever they may be. Okay, Tom, so we walked in the bathroom. We turned on the hot water.
Turn on the hot water. Now wait till the water gets to the temperature you want.
Okay, so look.
Take off your clothes.
But that's key, right? Imagine if we took off our clothes and got in the shower and it's ice cold.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so that would be another step. It sounds silly, okay, right. But you would have to go in that order. So go in the bathroom, turn on the hot water. Next is check the temperature.
Yep.
Okay, and you might not want to be standing in the bathroom naked waiting for it to warm up, right? So it's like, all right, check the temperature and then take your clothes off and get in the shower. Now, at my house, I have on one area of my bathroom, I have all the towels, and on another area of my bathroom, I have the shower and then the tub. They're in different places. So if and I have done this before, I forget to bring a towel over and put it next to the shower. So what happens is when I'm done with the shower, now I get out and there's no towel, and then I traipse water all over the bathroom, and that means I have to clean it up or my wife gets very mad at me. Okay? So you have to start thinking, okay, what would the consequences of doing this step before another step be? And like, can I take the next step then? Okay. Now you don't have to figure this out all at once.
Right.
So what we would do is you say, all right, let's hypothetically say we went down, we went in the bathroom, we warmed it up, we turned on the hot water, we checked if it's warm, we took our clothes off, we got in the shower. Okay. What would come next, Tom?
Wash your hair.
There you go. So wash your hair, and then you would write the next step. Wash your face, wash your body, use the back scrubber, whatever these things are, okay? In whatever order you would do them in. And I would encourage you to try writing your own shower SOP to experience what it's like to write one. Right. Before we do this for a business task, I want you to do it for a task you've seen before and you've done before and has almost become routine. Because most of the SOPs that you want to write are typically for jobs that you know how to do habitually, right? They become second nature to you. Mm-hmm. And the reason you want to write the SOP is so you can one day delegate them off, okay? But there are steps in there that you take for granted that you need to actually go ahead and write down. It sounds silly, but that opening procedure for the client that we told you about, we have to tell them to turn on the computers. And the reason we had to write that in the SOP is because what was happening, and they do everything else, and they'd come in, and the step after turn on the computers was go turn on lights or do something else. I forget what the order was, but then it was to check the incoming emails. Well, if they didn't turn on the computer, it would take them an extra 3 or 4 minutes to get to the email. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that is a waste of time. Okay, just like if we got in the cold shower, that's a waste of time. Now I have to step back in the shower and wait for it to warm up when I could have been doing something else. Okay. So now we wash up, we do everything. Okay. And you're going to write yours out. Now, what comes after that, Tom?
After you're done in the shower, shut off the water.
Okay.
And then step out of the shower.
Great.
Take the towel and dry your body off.
Aha. So at this point in my SOP, I would have realized, oh man, I forgot the step about bring the towel over. So you're totally fine. If you have step 1 through 5 already written out and you realize, well, the towel needs to either be step 2 or 3, you can move it into 2 or 3 and then change the order.
Right.
That's the purpose of writing this out. So you can really logistically see, okay, what needs to go in what order and at what time and to accomplish what goal. Okay. So now we're like, okay, we go back, we fix it, we get out of the shower, and now the towel is right next to me and I can actually dry off. Okay. And then what would be the next step after that, Tom?
After you dry off, put your underwear on.
Okay. So at that point, are we done with the shower SOP?
Yes. Now we're on to the dressing SOP.
Perfect. So
post shower.
Great. So what we want to make sure that you do is understand the SOP that you're writing isn't the entire task. It's part of a task. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you want to carve out like, okay, here's how you take the shower. Okay. If for me, okay, in my house, I do put the warm water on first. So I have an Insta heater that's 2 floors away from where my shower is, and it takes 2 minutes to warm up. So the first thing I do, I go into the bathroom and turn the shower on first. Okay, that's the very first thing I do. And then I go and I brush my teeth and do something else. By the time I'm done with that, then I start my SOP for my shower. Okay. So what happens is you may have different parts of what your morning routine is. So let's say your morning routine to get ready involves you making coffee, eating breakfast, taking a shower, getting it dressed, and then going out to whatever you're going to do next. So that's your morning routine as one long task that you're going to do. And there might be 4 or 5 SOPs built into that. Mm-hmm. Okay. Make sense, Tom?
That makes a ton of sense. And I think one of the things too is remember to be somewhat flexible with yourself while writing this procedure. These are not things that are finite. And a lot of people get caught up in them. They delay doing them because they want them to be perfect. And they're not meant to be perfect. They're meant to be modified or modifiable at different points, depending, because you may write an SOP for a system that you have, and then you go and change the system. Well, guess what? You have to rewrite the SOP at that point. And I think that's really important. Like, we were being flexible in what our processes were between the two of us. And then in the level of detail, you have to make sure you include as much as possible.
Great. In the next section, we're going to talk more seriously about writing an SOP for follow-up. How do you follow up with people? All right. In this section, we actually won't go into such great detail because hopefully you can take what we learned previously and apply it to this. But let's just be more logical about this. And we are going to do this on the fly. We are not going to use our SOP, for follow-up. We're going to create one live. Okay. Right. So let's make up a mythical client, Tom. Make up a client. They're doing what service of Atomic Business Coaching? Just make a new service up.
They just became a one-to-one client.
No, make a service up that we've never done. We really have to show them like something completely new.
Got it. Okay. Oh, geez. That's a tough one.
Make something up.
What's a service? All right. Phone call coaching.
Phone call coaching. All right, cool. Good. Okay, so now we're going to write an SOP for how we would follow up with someone that we've identified as good for phone call coaching, okay? So, and let's say that we met them in person, okay, Tom? So we did not meet them on social media, okay? We met them on person. Okay. So what would the first thing in the SOP be if we're going to follow up with them?
Well, make sure you have their information.
Correct. Okay. So if you don't have their information from a previous SOP, okay, you can't start this one. Literally today, Tom and I were going over with our assistant a new SOP, and inside of it, it says, well, if this one wasn't done, this new SOP will not be able to run through its facilitation. Right. So yes, first we need to find all the contact information. So that would be step number 1, find the contact info. Now, For us, we have a CRM. For you, you may store it in your phone. It may be in an email that they sent. You may have a business card that you collected. It does not matter. There's no right or wrong way to do this, okay? It's what your way is. So step number 1, find the information. Great. What would step number 2 be, Tom?
Decide if you're going to text or make the phone call.
Great. So you, as writing this SOP, get to determine how you want to do that. So if you want to only call people, you would say, okay, pick up the phone and dial their phone number. If you only want to text people, you would say, take out your cell phone and text them. If you want to email them, you would say that. Now, what you can do in an SOP is have these branches that come off of it. So you could say contact client, and below that, maybe that's step 2, right? So it's find the information. Contact the client would be step 2. Well, in step 2, you could have A, B, or C, and it could say choose one of the following 3: text them, call them, or email them. It's very, very simple. Okay. So if we're going to call them as step 2, we missed an entire step. What that step was what are we calling them about? So if we found their information and called them and then got them on the phone and said, hey, Mary, this is Adam from Atomic Business Coaching. And they said, yes, hi, what can I do for you? And you're like, I don't know. I forgot what the next step was.
Right.
So what you actually have to write in this, even though this is a follow-up for what Tom created as phone call coaching, you have to have some kind of an intention behind this. And your intention may be, I want to set up an appointment. Your intention may be, I want to go through a script and pitch them. Your intention may be, I just want to follow up and say, thank you. It was really nice to meet you. Would you be interested in X, Y, or Z? But you have to have that intention before you pick up the phone. Okay, before you text somebody, before you email them, you need to understand, here's the part of the follow-up that I need. So now that means we know the intention. Okay. For someone new, we may want to put in there step 3 is to review the script, review the template, review the whatever it is.
Right.
Then step 4 would be contact that person. Okay. Now, in the contact that person, you would have to have alternates. So there's different branches. So if you contacted them and let's say it's a phone call, and they answered the phone, you're going to do the script. And your intention, let's say, was to set up an appointment. How are you going to set up that appointment? How would you do it, Tom?
We can look at your calendar.
Okay. So if
you got to ask
SOP,
first if we'd like to meet with you.
Well, yes, that's part of your script.
Right.
But where I'm going with this part is you would then have to understand the methodology that you want everybody to use. And for us, it's Calendly link. We send them a Calendly link, and here you go. It's that. That's how we do it in email, text message, and DM. When our assistant calls to set up appointments for us, we do not want her to do that. We want her to pull up Adam and Tom's calendar and say, hey, Mary, so I'm glad you're interested in doing this. It looks like Adam and Tom are both available. I'm literally looking at my calendar. Are available on Tuesday at 3:15 p.m. Does that work for you? Right. So inside of our SOP for follow-up, we have 3 different things. And when it gets to a phone call, there is no link sent because we already have them in that moment. And the purpose of the follow-up was the intention to set the appointment. At least that's what we're doing that for. So we want that to be done. When it's an email or a text, it's more of this one-way communication. You're not live with somebody, and you can send a link and they can click the button and schedule the appointment. So you have to consider what are the things that can happen underneath that step. It can go left, it can go right, it can go in between. So if you don't predetermine that, and then whoever you're giving this to comes up against it, they won't know what to do next. There'll be a deer in headlights. Okay. All right, Tom. So let's say it was a phone call and we told them to schedule the appointment. And now, great, it's on Tuesday at 3:15 and the assistant scheduled it. What would be the next step?
To put a reminder to follow up with them.
Okay.
For the call.
That is a great one. Yes. I would always make sure that I'm sending that communication to the client.
Right.
So I would do that by calendar invite if it was a Zoom meeting, or I would do it by calendar invite if it was any meeting, any appointment. Right. We're meeting at this coffee shop. We're having a phone call, and here's the phone number, and I'm going to call you, or you're going to call me. We're meeting on the Zoom, and here's the link. So you'd want to send out that calendar invite. Okay. Then I would go to the confirmation sequence. Okay.
Got it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So at that confirmation sequence, you can have alternates too. Okay. It could be text message, phone call, email, all these different things. And what you're doing is, just as Tom explained earlier on in the intro, is these are directions. Okay. But when you're going through a procedure, there are things that can take place. Okay.
Right.
And in the next section, we will talk about how to deal with that as well. So, Tom, what is the next piece? So now we have gone through everything and we're at the point of confirmation.
Right.
What would come after that?
Well, the next thing would be to have the meeting, but that would be another SOP.
Perfect. And that's where I was hoping you'd bring us to. Is that's when you know that you're done, like that SOP is written. Okay. So in the next section, we're going to talk about what are the next steps. Okay. So hopefully so far you're seeing this is very simple. Okay. But it's not easy. And that is our whole philosophy in business and life. Okay. These things are very, very simple. And it might sound stupid about taking a shower or with the follow-up and doing these things. Okay. But here's why we need to keep them simple, because of this next step. And this is the last module in this course here. And what it really is about now, what are you going to do with the SOP? So priority number one is you're going to use it yourself. Mm-hmm. We want you to actually go through that. So if it was me and I used that shower SOP and I got in, I would have got out of the shower with no towel and there would have been water all over. And what would I have learned from that, Tom?
A lot, that you can't do it that way.
Mm-hmm. So if I can't do it that way, what would I have learned?
The wrong way to do it.
And then how can I change that?
Go and modify the SOP.
That's what the SOP is for. And that's why you want to use it. So then you can iterate it. Okay. What we are doing is consistently improving your SOP. Mm-hmm. We want to make it more effective, number one, and more efficient, number two. So you have to consistently use that SOP and by the letter of what you wrote down, not making it up as you go along, because if you're going to hand this off to somebody else, they can't make it up because you've told them exactly how you want it done. So you follow it from step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And as you do that, we realized in the shower SOP, we missed a step. So now we have 7 steps. And then the next time we took a shower, we'd go back and do it again. And we're like, wow, that really worked. But you know what's interesting? If I would have went into the shower and turned the hot water on and moved the towel and got undressed and did that, I could have fixed it. I could have made it a little bit quicker. Okay. Right. Which is why my personal SOP, I go in, as soon as I go in the bathroom, I turn the hot water on and then I follow another SOP.
Right.
Okay. Which is then I go brush my teeth and do all that stuff. And so you find out ways to make this more efficient. Now, Tom, it looks like you were going to jump in and say something.
Yeah, no, you took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, the key is that as you go through this process, you will see the inefficiencies in what you're doing. And by writing these things out step by step, you can eliminate a lot of the things that are not efficient about it. And you'll actually improve the time that it takes you to do these things and enhance it, because you can identify what you don't need to be doing in that situation, or how you can better use the time while you're waiting for another step of the process, like we demonstrated before.
Correct. Now, I want to warn you that most people, as we said earlier on, are looking at writing SOPs because they finally come to a point in their life where they're going to delegate something. Correct. We don't want you to wait for that. But we also, as you are writing the SOP, hopefully now all the time when you have something you have to do, and then you are using it, we don't want you to make it efficient just to make it shorter time frame. Mm-hmm. It's more important to make it effective. I would rather you take twice as long and have it 10 times as more effective than take half as much time and it work the same as it did before. So number 1 priority is use it. Number 2 is iterate it. Number 3 is how do we make it more effective? And then once we have it as effective as it can be, how do we make it more efficient?
Correct.
Now, the unique piece here is there are actually multiple other steps. And what we will do is we will create a few other courses. And what those courses will be about is once you have the SOP and you're using it and you're iterating it, and you've got it to the point where, okay, this works. What comes after that? Well, after that is the systems. Even before you're really iterating it, you're going to include the systems. And then we're going to talk about how do you create a job description? And then how do you hire for that? And then how do you manage those people? So there are multiple things that come into this. And this is why this is really more SOP 101. But what were you going to say, Tom?
I think I just want to emphasize as we wrap up this course, it's really about making sure that you see this as important to the life of your business. This is a matter of life and death for your business. If you don't have SOPs, you will prevent yourself from growing and scaling your business. You will prevent yourself from being able to really capitalize on everything that you're trying to do. And as a solo business owner, a lot of you that maybe have maybe one or two employees, in the event something, God forbid, happened to you, the business would be able to continue because you have these procedures, you have these standards of how you operate. Because if business had to continue without you because you had an emergency or whatever the situation, it can. And I think that's one of the most important things to take away from why we write SOPs, is because they're important to the life and the sustainability of life in your business.
Excellent, Tom. We appreciate your time. And if you need any assistance with this and you're on school, hopefully you can go in and message us. You can attend one of our live sessions and ask questions. And we look forward to your success.